Welcome to part 5 of the Social Strategy Primer. In the previous installment, we defined strategic problems and analyzed the strategic environment, the system of actors, incentives, and constraints that produce our strategic problems. In this video, we're going to take the next step, defining what success actually looks like. Specifically, we'll discuss how to design a strategic end state and how to derive the strategic objectives that must hold for that end state to be achieved and sustained. At first glance, defining an end state seems simple. Just describe the world you want to create. But in practice, this is one of the most common failure points in strategy. End states are often vague, aspirational, or defined as simply the inverse of the problem we're trying to solve. To design a coherent strategy, we need an end state that is not just desirable, but structurally sound. A common mistake is to define the end state as simply the inverse of the problem. If the problem is a polluted river, for example, the end state must be a clean river, right? Unfortunately, no. That kind of thinking ignores why the river is polluted in the first place. It treats the problem as a static condition, rather than the product of a system. As we discussed previously, strategic problems are emergent system conditions. They arise from the interaction of multiple actors pursuing their own interests under existing incentives and constraints. In other words, a strategic problem reflects a stable equilibrium. Simply describing the absence of that equilibrium does not tell us what will replace it. This brings us to a critical idea: the replacement equilibrium. A true strategic end state is not just a desired outcome. It is a self-reinforcing equilibrium in the strategic environment, one that durably produces conditions aligned with our interests. If we want strategic success to last, we must replace the existing equilibrium with a better one. A viable replacement equilibrium exists when relevant actors adopt new, preferable patterns of behavior that are first, rational under prevailing incentives and constraints, and second, self-reinforcing over time. This is crucial. If the desired behavior only persists through constant effort or extraordinary enforcement, the equilibrium has not truly changed. Let's make this concrete and continue our polluted river example. In the current equilibrium, individuals and businesses dispose of waste in the river's watershed with little accountability. Enforcement is lax, social norms are ambivalent, and proper disposal is often inaccessible or unaffordable. In a fully constructed replacement equilibrium, we would describe actors properly disposing of waste through qualified services. Proper disposal becomes the default, while improper disposal carries unacceptable legal, social, and economic costs. In this world, a clean river is no longer fragile, it's self-maintaining. The replacement equilibrium is a functional description of how the system works. It is an analytical frame that allows us to develop a fully constructed goal. But strategy is not just about analysis. It is also about communication and alignment. For this, we need a concise statement of the condition that exists because the equilibrium holds. We need to move up a level, from behavior to outcome. A complete end state must concisely communicate the desired outcome in the context of the new equilibrium. In our river example, the strategic end state is not simply the river is clean or free of pollution, but the river remains clean without the need for continuous remediation or extraordinary enforcement. This formulation is far more robust than simply saying the river is clean. It implies durability, stability, and economy, and it encodes all of the rigor of our prior analysis. Once we've articulated the end state in the replacement equilibrium, we can derive our strategic objectives. A strategic objective is a condition that must be achieved or sustained for the end state to hold. These are not tasks or activities. They are statements of mutual necessity. Properly derived strategic objectives form a mutually reinforcing set of necessary conditions. If any one of them fails, the equilibrium is at risk of collapse, and the end state becomes unstable. Objectives describe what must be true, not what we intend to do. In our river example, these conditions include access to affordable waste management, reliable identification of polluters, predictable legal penalties, social and economic consequences, and a system that is perceived as legitimate and fair. Together, these objectives define the requirements of the replacement equilibrium. Each one reinforces at least one other objective, such that the removal of one materially weakens the equilibrium. Designing credible and useful strategic end states and objectives is not as simple as simply naming a problem and planning for the problem's absence. It depends on a thorough understanding of the equilibrium from which the problem emerged and a realistic imagining of a preferable equilibrium to replace it. Once this hard work has been done, our end state and strategic objectives can be easily and logically derived. Thank you for watching this installment of the La Jolla Center's Social Strategy Primer Series. In the next installment, we'll turn to strategic ways and means, how we apply social power to realize our strategic objectives. If you'd like to learn more, please subscribe or visit our website at thelajollacenter.org and subscribe to our Substack. I'm Blaine Worthington, founder and executive director of the La Jolla Center for Pacific Strategy. Thank you for watching.